Surprise, mother...
There are a ton of new spirit ashes in Shadow of the Erdtree, including some very hard to get summons that are really worth the effort. Today we'll go through the best new spirit summons in Shadow of the Erdtree. Let's go! Let me know your favorite of these in the comments down below. We'll start with one of the early ones you can get. That's the Demon Hunter Swordsman Yosh. Now, you will have fought a variant of this Demon Hunter if you did go through a particular jail, but he uses the star-lined sword, which is an incredible new katana that you can actually wield yourself. He's small, so the hitbox is also small, which makes the demi-human Yosh a little harder to hit, but he has this little teleport ability, very reminiscent to like the Black Knife Tishi as well, but it's sort of linked to the Starline sword, but then also not, like, because that Starline sword does have an Ash of War that does teleport as well, but then he will just randomly do it outside of the Ash of War as well. The damage here is pretty solid. I wouldn't say it's anything crazy. It's not Frostbite like the actual boss is, which is something to point out, but the damage here is pretty solid. I just like the versatility of having a smaller summon that can avoid damage as well as have that little teleport to get away from damage as well, and then just keep following up with their own hits with pretty relatively quick combos compared to some of the more slower spirit ashes. Now this is dropped from the demi-human swordsman NorZZa boss, which is inside the Ballarat jail below the Ballarat Tower settlement. It's one of the early ones that you can actually get near the lake to the east of Ballarat Tower settlement. There is an entrance to the jail there, and just you have to work your way all the way down to the bottom, fight the boss, and you'll get the spirit ashes. Bloodfiend Hexers Ashes is next. This spirit conducts blood boon rituals with a sacred spear. It casts blood flame hexes, and it says in the description it takes a singular pleasure in letting the blood of foes, which can be translated to the fact that he gets a attack power buff when there is blood loss in the vicinity. So anytime that, say, if you are using some sort of blood loss or arcane build, something like that, this is a really good spirit summon to use in those builds, because he will get an attack buff when you trigger blood loss. He'll also help you trigger blood loss because he does trigger it not only with the sacred spear, but then the different attacks that he does do. The one downside to the Bloodfiend is that he's very easy for enemies to stagger, very much like these are actually easy for us to stagger when we fight them. That translates to the spirit summons as well. So if he is taking like the brunt of your damage, he can get staggered very easily. Like, he doesn't have a high, like very high health pool and doesn't avoid the damage super well, but the benefits of like the blood loss and like the attack power buff and the different types of attacks that the Bloodfiend Hexers Ashes use is sort of the benefits to it. Now this is dropped from the Chief Bloodfiend boss at the end of the Rivermouth Cave. In order to get to the Rivermouth Cave, you will need to go to the River Downstream section, which you can get to via the Castlefront Ruins and heading east, and then to the north at the fork in the road, and then following the path down to the cliff face. Which will then lead you through a cave, and then from here you need to head basically straight north. You'll eventually run into the Rivermouth Cave. Taylew, the Golem Smith, is next. Now, this one is actually a good tank because it operates very similar to the golems that you fight in all of like those golems that you run into in the ruined forges, where if you attack him from the front, he takes like very little damage. He's got to actually be hit from the back. This is beneficial because the AI doesn't do this very often. Sometimes, like in the footage here against the Tree Sentinel, he is actually technically like hitting the back because of like the massive hammer and the way that he like moves around. But for the most part here, and they don't actually take a ton of damage, and the same way that like they can get staggered and knocked down, the AI will barely ever actually go walk around behind them and follow up with a critical hit, right? So very tanky, and the Taylew variant here will be the one that shoots like the projectiles out of his fists, like those like rock things that they like shoot out of their hands in some of those dungeons that you would have run into. So he can do that, so he's got a little bit of range potential, still does all the melee attacks, plus is a really good tank option that does decent amount of damage, but then is hard to exploit from an enemy AI perspective because they don't typically walk around behind them and like follow up with the critical hits and do all that stuff. So you get the benefits from that there. Now this comes from Taylew's Ruined Forge, which can be located to the north of the Ancient Ruins base. In order to get here, you'll need to start from the Morth Ruins site of Grace and then head towards the north and head through a cave here, which will then lead you out into a poison swamp. From here, you'll just need to follow this path that I'm showing you underneath the Shadow Keep, and you'll eventually come out at the Ancient Ruins base site of Grace. And then from here, you just need to follow the path north immediately till you get to the Taylew's Ruined Forge. Fire Knight Queelign is next. Now, you will have seen this as an NPC invader a couple of times, as he does invade you a couple of times. Now, you can get him as a Spirit Ash, and he'll use all of those same really frustrating attacks that he does on you on anything that you face with him. So he's got that spear-like greatsword that he can impale enemies with, like Flame Skewer, does a lot of these flame incantations as well, the exact same sort of attack patterns that he would have used on you. In order to get him as a Spirit Ash, there's a little bit of like a few steps here. So first, you'll need to go to the Church of Crusade, which is in the Skardu Atlas. Now, once you get here, he will invade you and you'll need to beat him. He will drop an Ash of War here as well as the Prayer Room Key. And then you'll actually need to find him directly, which can be found in the Church District. Now, you get to the Church District by heading through Boney Village and then up through Rabbith Rise. There's a pathway that'll lead you to the Church District entrance, which is where we're going to start from here. Now, from here, you want to do some platforming across the rooftops, as I am doing. And then you'll eventually be able to jump across this ledge and then jump down into this roof, follow the pathway along, and then as you jump down again, if you double back a little bit, there'll be a doorway there that you'll be able to unlock with the Prayer Room Key, and he'll be located in that room. Now, you will need to give him an Iris of Grace in order to get the Spirit Summon. If you give him an Iris of Occultation, he'll actually drop his like great sword, so you can only get one of these per run. Now, if you want to get an Iris of Grace, there's actually one located not too far from here. So if you continue along, like completing the Church District, if you follow the pathway here and then head left, you'll be able to lower the water level. Now, once you've done this and you head down to the ground level, there will be a couple of enemies and bosses and stuff you'll have to fight on this pathway that I'm going, as I've already beaten them. But once you go inside like the church and you turn right, you follow that path all the way down, you'll actually be able to go down to the Tree Worship Passage, and then you keep following that path. You'll eventually run into a statue of Marika that has an Iris of Grace at it. And then you just need to take this to Queelign, give it to him, and you'll get the Spirit Ashes for yourself. Fire Knight Hilde is next. Now, the Fire Knight Hilde is like, if you don't want to get, say, Queelign, but you still want a Fire Spirit Summon, then this is definitely the route to go. He has a slender greatsword that he does swing that also has those same fire attacks that these Fire Knights you run into in the Shadowkeep use. He's got those same fire incantations as well. So similar benefits, say for Fire Knight Queelign, if you wanted to go the greatsword instead, but this is a different like alternative fire option. Now, in order to get Fire Knight Hilde, we'll start from the prayer room again where Queelign is, because it is in a similar area, just so we don't have to backtrack from that same pathway again. So starting from here, where you turned left to go and lower the water level, you'll actually be going right and following that pathway around, which will lead you to an elevator. You take that elevator all the way up and it will take you to the back section of the storehouse. Now from here, you want to work your way up the storehouse and you'll eventually get to the storehouse loft. From here, you'll be able to like climb on all the roofs and everything like that. And at one section in like the corner of the room, there are 2 lifts and you'll need to climb on top of one of those lifts by activating the lift and then immediately jumping off it, wait for the lift to go all the way down and then activate the other one to send that one back up again, and then jump on top of that one as it's going up, so then you can jump across onto like this ledge, which is where you'll find the Spirit Ash located there. So it requires a little bit of work, but that's where you will find it. Before we get into the best Spirit Ash in the DLC, we'll do some honorable mentions here. The first is the Divine Bird Warrior Ornus. Now, I do like the animations here. It does seem that there is blood loss buildup on the Divine Bird as well. It like generally looks cool. Like I love like the jumping attack that he does do. It's just like got cool vibes to it. Now, this one's a little tricky to get to. In the Templetown ruins, you'll essentially need to head towards where the Kindred of Rot dudes are. Then there's like a little jumping puzzle here that you'll need to jump across. You'll eventually find it in a chest there, which you'll be able to locate. Black Knight Captain Hugh is also not bad. I like that he has a twin blade and does that aspect of the wings like Ash of War as well. Not as strong as I would like. He doesn't two-hand the twin blade because he does occasionally use some incantations, but like very, very rarely. Like, I do like this one though, and it comes from the Scorpion River Catacombs. You'll be able to get him from there. And the last in this honorable mentions is the Curseblade Mirror. Because those Curse Blades are so annoying to fight on your own, I thought I would mention the Spirit Ash because they use those exact same attacks, and the damage here is pretty like okay, but the blood loss is good. It doesn't dodge as well as the actual real versions of these do, which is a little disappointing and why it's only an honorable mention, but it does come from the very end of the Bony Jail. Once you beat the boss there, the Curseblade Labyrinth, you will get this Spirit Ash. Now, the best Spirit Ash in the DLC is Yolan and Anna, and this is actually a like combination of 2 Spirit Ashes at the end of a very long quest line that you'll need to complete. Now, I went over the first 3 parts of this quest line in my Talisman video, which I'll link here just so we don't have to go through that entire process again. But the TLDR is at the Cathedral of Manus Miter, which I'm probably pronouncing wrong. There is an NPC here called Ymir. You'll be needing to complete his quest line by fighting the Finger Ruins, which one of them is found in the Cerulean Coast. The next one is found past the Hinterlands, which you would have been able to access via the path through the lofts that we were talking about earlier. Once you've done that, you'll need to find the third one, which is underneath the cathedral, and complete the boss encounter there. And then returning to the top, you'll get invaded by Knight Yolan, and then you need to beat them and Count Ymir himself. And then afterwards, you'll be able to talk to Yolan. Now, there is 2 choices to make here once again. You can give them the Iris of Grace to get the Spirit Summons, or the Iris of Occultation to get the Sword of Night. Now, you will need a second Iris of Grace if you are getting both of these, which you can actually get, and you probably would have run into, starting from the storehouse first floor. If you follow this path to the left, you'll see a lift that can then take you down to an area that has a lot of jars in it, and if you continue to follow that path into a larger room with more jars, there's a jar at the end of this corridor that has a Iris of Grace behind them. So you've got 2 of them. Now, once you give this to Yolan, you'll get the Spirit Ash, and then do not upgrade it. We need to take it to the Hinterlands. Now, just to recap here, as I didn't specify in this video, you'll need to head to Bony Village to get the O Mother gesture, which unlocks this pathway. Now, at the Marika statue at the Shadowkeep back gate, you'll need to use the O Mother gesture there. That will open the secret entrance to the Hinterlands. Now, because we were already technically here for part of this storyline, so I didn't want to cover this too much, but from here then, you'll need to head up to the Shaman Village, sort of to the east of where you spawn there. There's a pathway that's kind of tricky to like descend. But once you descend there, you'll be able to access the roof of the Rabel's Rise, which is where you will actually find Anna. And by interacting with her, she will like be absorbed into the Spirit Ash as well. So then you've got both of them that get summoned. The reason that the Spirit Ash is so good is because of Yolan's Sword of Night, for one, right? It's an incredible sword that has a great Ash of War. Both their weapons will penetrate the enemy's guard, and they also trigger blood loss as well. And because there's 2 of them attacking at once, that blood loss does build up very quickly. Plus, you've got 2 like essential like spirit summons active at the same time. So you've got that variable where they can both be attacked and like move around separately. Then you've got yourself that can also engage as well. So really good for any sort of blood loss build or just builds in general, because of their overall damage output, the flexibility of having the 2 summons in the one. When you upgrade it, it does exceptional damage as well. So plenty of value in that. But that's all I've got for you today. Let me know your favorite Spirit Ash in the comments down below. Thank you guys for watching this video till the end. Thank you to our members for supporting the channel. My name is NorZZa. I hope you have a great day.